You know what, he ended up being like super, super awesome. I don't think I've ever been in a bigger fight than with Paul Sorvino in my life. Like, I've always gotten along for the most part with my cast members, and just one day, and I think we just had to do it, because after that, things were great. But one day, we just came to blows, and I was raised in a very respectful home. Like, you were supposed to respect your elders. And he just was not being a team player. We had all, it had been a long day, and we were all at rehearsal, and I swear he used every excuse in the book to get out of this rehearsal, and we had to do it. So I finally just went off, and I'm sure I looked like a chihuahua, because I'm like so mad. but after that, we ended up getting along really well, but it was just, like I said, when you have a movie without a budget, you're literally making this project for love, and you have to work really hard. It's long hours, and everybody's tired, but you know that you're all in it together. And if you have one person throwing it off, it screws with your whole movie. That's when you lose scenes. That's when you lose songs, because you don't have time to waste. And I think that was just like a really frustrating time for all of us. But we ended up getting through it, and he ended up becoming a great team player. And when you see somebody like Sarah Brightman coming on set, who, no joke, is wearing heels like this. I mean, insane heels. And she's a tiny little lady who's just gorgeous and such a team player. And she didn't take them off all day long.
And the scleral industry.
Oh yeah, and her little contact things. And she, I think, was put through the ringer on that film and did not complain once.
She was a trooper.
Everything was, I had enough.
She was sweet. She was absolutely wonderful.
Really wonderful. And when somebody sets the bar that high, you do it. You go for it.
Also, I gotta say that Paul, Ogre and I used to we used to try to make Paul laugh. And we would sit there, because he'd be in his chair, and he'd come over and, laugh and goof on him and stuff. So, trying to keep his humor up. But there was a night, the last night that we shot, where, it's the climactic scene, and Paul was, had the walking pneumonia or something, or he inhaled too much black mold, or, I don't know, iron ore. But,
the smoke pouring.
Right, yeah, he was chuffing away, but he ended up, he could have, he was really, it looked like he was about to, he was on his last legs, to put it that way, and he could have pulled the plug. If he had said, like, I can't go on, the movie basically would have been fucked, because it was, the big scene. And Paul, kind of like Willis Reed in that famous New York Knicks basketball game many years ago, he kind of, lived out, and he fucking did it. He fell down on the stage in a bunch of sticky blood and did his whole thing. I know. Almost like James Brown, they came out with a cape. He's going, no, I can do it. So he was awesome. And I also love Sarah Brightman. I'll let her talk about her, but I did want to put in a plug for Paris Hilton. A lot of people thought, when they saw that Paris was in REPO, they automatically wrote off the whole movie. Like, oh, Paris Hilton. And you know what? Paris Hilton was a trooper.
Yeah.
She did a really good job. She showed up. She was in the makeup chair at 4 in the morning to get her face on or off or whatever the case may be. And she did a good job. I'll put it out there to the audience. How many of you thought that Paris rocked that movie? And except for the rich Prosecco, she did a pretty good job.
Yeah, she tried. She made an effort.
Yeah, and Paris was kind of one of the guys in a way with all the stuff that we had to do. She was playing along with us all the way, and the one really cute thing she did for all of us was that when she left at the end, she made these little framed portraits of the Largo family. Collage, and then a collage. Well, we had a portrait of the Largo family, and then a collage for each person separately, which was super sweet and nice. My stories about Paul are quick. I have 2 stories about Paul. One, there was a fire on the set. He shut it down. He was going to call OSHA, enraged. stormed back to his trailer, and somebody had to go out and see him, and they opened the trailer door, and he's sitting there smoking a cigarette. He's going to see his asthma, and he's sitting there smoking a cigarette. And then the second story with Paul was we were rehearsing Night Surgeon, I remember when I first met him, and he and Linus were sitting there, and I was trying to figure out my movements for Bobby, and I was going way into more of a animalistic sort of thing, and I walked off from one rehearsal and walked up to him, and he's like, "Hey, monkey boy." So I was like, "Okay, bring it back, bring it back." And everybody else, I mean, it was an amazing set. Anthony Stewart Head was wonderful. I first met him with my little dog out front of the hotel, and he went right down to my little dog, Bat. And, you know, he was in my heart from that point on, because he was an animal person. He was totally sweet on set. All of us, I think, kind of knew we were doing something left of center. I can't say, it was my first film, so I'm speaking, I guess, a bit out of turn, but I think all of us knew we were doing something a bit left of center, and we were all really committed to it. And I think everybody kind of was really putting their best foot forward all the way along. And, you know, that's what I took away from it, it was a wonderful experience.
And also, I got to say that it's an experience that's carried on to the Devil's Carnival, you know, the REPO Road Show. I mean, that was the one thing that I've got to say about REPO, and that is that it did not do well when it opened. It opened in, I think, 5 or 6 theaters worldwide, and...
no, but it actually...
What was it?
It actually did do all right.
Well, ultimately, it did well, but there were so few theaters that there was no way that it could, you know, recoup its budget. So it was kind of...
The whole story behind
It was a Roman assassination.
You heard what happened with, like, Anchorage, Alaska, right?
Anchorage, Alaska, no.
So, we know about Anchorage. Basically, the studio said if your film does well, we'll open it in more theaters. So, of course, then Darren's like, yeah, okay. So when it opens, it does pretty well considering the amount of theaters that it's in. So the studio decides that they're going to open the film in Anchorage, Alaska. Like of all places, and we were fucked for that one.
It did finally recoup its investment, though, because thanks to, you know, Darren Bowson is an amazing guy, in addition to a great director. He would not say die with REPO. You know, a lot of people, I think, lesser folk would kind of just go, okay, I failed, you know, and go and, you know, stand in the corner or whatever you do. But Darren actually got, you know, a couple of 35mm prints, put them under his arm, grabbed Terrence, and, you know, whoever of the cast members were willing and able to go.
Get in the van.
And got in the van, you know, and started going across the country. I don't know if they probably came down to New Orleans, you know, and just did this REPO roadshow and created this grassroots REPO army. Really just, you know, was really kind of the, you know, in the forefront of that. I guess people do that more often now. And really, you know, just would not let REPO fall through the cracks, and really created this, you know, just made people like aware of it, because so many people didn't know about REPO. And, you know, it's amazing that it has, you know, it has not only survived but thrived in this afterlife, and that because of REPO, because of the fan support, you know, he did Devil's Carnival. And we're hoping that we do a second Devil's Carnival, and this time I hope it's not so fucking cold.
I broke my wrist on that.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's not cold.
You're wrong. Yeah. I was very popular because I had a cape with my costumes. I was like keeping everybody warm. The ladies, I was keeping the ladies warm.
Well, I would like to thank you all for coming out here again today, and you're here all weekend, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone, and